Hey, everybody, good morning and happy Tuesday. Uh, this is Richard Charpentier, and I'm the owner and founder of Baking Innovation. It's baking-innovation.com. And I am filling in today for Dr. Lynn Carson to answer all your great questions. So without further ado, it's Tuesday, 10 at 10. So 10 questions, 10 minutes. We'll try to go through it and answer the most. Let's get started. I have a big fan of the Bakerpedia here asking for how to preserve his croissants better and what's the best usage of mold preservation and what level should he use. And he's thinking of starting up with calcium propionate. So I would say it's fantastic. Calcium propionate, if you want to get a solid, has been proven, it's been used around. It works fantastic for baked goods and in the yeast-raised products, such as your croissants. The recommended usage are between 2.5 ounces to 5 ounces per every 100 pounds. You can, in extreme cases, when I say extreme cases, when the weather is super hot, summertime like now, or you're in Florida, high humidity, go to the 5 ounces. If you want to go more natural, there are natural options. There are fermented wheat, fermented corn as well, which is, lactic acids you can use. But if you want to use calcium propionate, it's economical. It works very well. There's nothing wrong with it. And also keep a clean sanitation program in your plant. That's the first prevention always before adding anything, okay? All right, good question. Moving to the next question. So person wants to know what preservation system to use in the oat cookies. So for shelf life and how much should be used. Well, first of all, I'm not recommending using or adding anything in a cookie. Why? Because cookies are naturally low in moisture and low in water activity. So adding something will impact the flavor because you're adding something. So if you're seeing mold, and I don't know how quickly you're seeing mold in your product, I would say, check out your bakery, because once your cookies are baked and they come out of the oven, they're sanitized, they're clean. So where are you getting mold in the product? If you apply proper GMP, the good manufacturing practices, and with a cookie, you should be fine. You should be fine, unless you're doing a specialty type of oat cookie, which I'm not aware of. It's a high moisture or a high water activity, then it's a different problem. But overall, you should not have to add anything. And if you really want to, and you're seeing issue, there's nitomycin, which use topical. It's a plant extract. You can use it as well. Spray it as they're coming out of the oven and let it cool and package it. But again, every time you touch things, your product, make sure you're using gloves and you use proper, practices for packaging as well, because that's where a lot of issues are coming from. People handling it with their hands or using gloves that have been used before and reusing the same gloves, touching doors. So I'm not saying that's what is being done, but I'm giving you recommendations of what I would do if I were in your situation. Next question. So it's about pH of muffin and the batter and the pH of vegetable and egg muffin batter. So here we have several questions. Not sure, it's not in, I'm not sure I completely understand your question, but if you're talking about strictly pH, muffins in general are fairly neutral. They have a pH of 7, which I call neutral. So not knowing what you put in there, if you could put maybe some bananas, some blueberries, some other fruits. I've seen people use vinegar, so your pH will be lower, but on average it's always 7. So now if you're also talking about vegetable and egg muffins, where now we're talking about a meat and dairy muffins, you have a very short shelf life, and they have to be kept refrigerated or frozen and thawed and consumed right away. So not sure if there's a recommended pH for those type of product, because you're dealing with a different category, which is meat and dairy. So I would refer to maybe the CFR, the Title 21, look under federal laws to see what are the recommended pHs, and I'm not regulatory expert, but you might fall under the low acid canned food, and maybe it's a different regulation for using eggs in muffin. Just check it. But pH should be 7. Hopefully answered your question. Thanks. Next question. We're talking about gluten-free cookies, and somebody's looking for natural ways to preserve a chocolate oatmeal cookie without changing the taste of the cookies. It's always challenging because, as a rule of thumb, you know, so if you make a cookie and you're putting extra salt, it's going to be saltier. Any ingredients, you know, that's why it has to be balanced, added will alter or modify the taste slightly. So for natural ways, what do we have? What are our options? So as I mentioned earlier, you could use fermented wheat, fermented corn. You have different fermented grains that are used as a natural way, so they're fermenting it, so it will lower your overall pH. You can also use plant extract. There's rosemary, there's thyme. Those are very good to preserve for preservation as well. And I know they have some, check with your vendors, they have some that do not impact the taste, because it would be very weird to have rosemary chocolate oatmeal gluten-free cookie. I completely get it. You have also nitomycin, which would be used topically, coming out, as I mentioned in the first question. It's used topically. You spray it on, it creates a barrier, you package it, it should really help you out. You also have raisin juice concentrate, prune juice concentrate. They're high in natural acid. Raisin has a lot of tartaric acid, but then you're using it at levels of 5 to 12%. And then impacting sugar, because you know they're fruits, so they have 70% sugar. So then you have to modify it, and I think it's going to taste differently. But it might work. It might be good. If you want to invest a little further, if you don't want to put anything in, there's UV lights. UV lights are fantastic, and you would put it through a conveyor belt, and UV light basically radiates most of the mold or anything that's on top. And if you package it right away, this is good. And again, the natural way, invest in good packaging. Good packaging is always an option. Matte packaging, modified atmospheric packaging, or deeply deoxygen, which is the only way to basically take care of molds. All right, hopefully I did answer your question. Next one. I bake cookies using frozen raspberries as a topping, and after a day, I get mold on my cookies. And what could I do to prevent that? So, hey, listen, right now you're looking at a fresh fruit that was flash frozen. And if you take any frozen fruit and you leave them on your counter, they will thaw, they will create a pool of water, and the pool of water and the fruit will get soggy and soft. So think about it. You're putting it on top of a cookie. Your cookie is what? Sugar. Now you're putting sugar, moisture, and that's a perfect nest for mold. So the molds, if it's molding after one day, that means you have a lot of mold in the raspberries. Or again, refer to how's your sanitation program in your bakery? Is it solid? Can you trust it? You know, are you sure that everything is clean in your bakery? So, and if you're trying to get a look, because not knowing whether or not your cookies are being sold every day, or if your cookies are being sold in a refrigerated case, maybe you use a fresh quality raspberry. That's an extra cost, but you might get the look and get what you want. If not, my recommendation, if it's longer than that, if it's not refrigerated, you will have to move towards preserves or jams. Good raspberry preserve or a good raspberry jam. It's high in sugar, it's not going to mold. I know you're not going to get the look of the fruit, but you would get the taste of the fruit. And it's not going to mold in one day. That's a guarantee. So I hope it helps, but I don't recommend frozen fruits for the look. So you'll be better off with fresh. Last question. Muffins. What is the best recommended? What is the best preservative system, mold preservation system recommended for muffins in commercial applications? So for commercial bakeries, most of the time you will see 3. If you look at commercial muffins, and you look at the packaging, they're using sorbic acid, potassium sorbate, or sodium propionate. How much to use is going to be up to you. What's your shelf life? You know, if you're talking about 18-month shelf life, which I've worked on, then it's a different preservation system. We have to use packaging, and we have to use mold preservation system as the three I mentioned: potassium sorbate, sodium propionate, and sorbic acid. And then you have to decide for yourself how much to add. You can look online. There's a lot of publication. I would look through Bakerpedia. There's recommended amounts that you can use, but overall, those are the ones being used for commercial applications. If you want to go more natural, as mentioned earlier, nidomycin, you could spray your muffins coming out of the oven, might benefit without having to use more, because the more you use, the more it impacts the flavor. It doesn't give you a clean flavor. You can use UV lights, and one good way to, maybe a good packaging, a good solid packaging. Put a little scavenger, the little oxygen packet to deplete the oxygen, and you get a good shelf life without having to add more. It's all about your budget. It's all about what you're trying to do and how much you're selling it for. I understand there's multiple solutions for bakers today. So that was the last question. I will wrap it up. Any questions for you bakers? I know you can go on the Bakerpedia website. There's the Baker Help. There's the Baker Forum. And also, I'm available as a consultant. You can find me there for more help or more discussion about shelf life and molds. Don't hesitate. And you have a great Tuesday. And thank you for listening. And happy baking.